All right. Hi, everyone.
Hey, Shey.
Hi. Oh, Mackenzie, Becky, Sol, Yara, Sasha, Gonzalo, Onilvia. Hey, this is so cool. Now I get to see all my friends who live out of town too. ¿Quiénes están aquí? Diana Arvanites, hola. Cariel, good to see you. I like your shirt. Awesome. All right, well, thank you for waiting. We had to figure out some of the YouTube streaming options, so we got that squared away. So I'm Shey Rivera. Oh, I see Anna. Hi, Anna.
Hey, Shey.
Yay, so great. Well, thank you for being with me this Friday. This is really exciting. I'm really inspired by the way that so many artists are just responding to create virtual community and digital space. You know, a few days ago, Yara Lisiaga had the Cloud Cafe event, and that was super inspiring. And yeah, there's just more happening. I know it's a tough time, but it is really cool to see how people are rethinking practice and community, especially in a moment where we really need it. So thank you to the Wilbury Group for hosting this reading. I want to start with a super quick moment of grounding and reflection, specifically to acknowledge where we are and where we come from. Even though this is digital space, we're all in physical presence and building community together. So I'm going to read this land acknowledgement by a really amazing organization called the Department of Art and Culture, who's creating a lot of tools to help artists build community in a much more conscientious way. And I really love this one. Every community owes its existence and vitality to generations from around the world who contributed their hopes, dreams, and energy to making the history that led to this moment. Some were brought here against their will. Some were drawn to leave their distant homes and hope for a better future. And some have lived on this land for more generations that can be counted. Truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. We are standing on the ancestral lands, in my case here, of the Narragansett, Nipmuc, and Wampanoag people. We pay respects to their elders, past and present. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that brings us here today. And please join us in uncovering such truths at any and all public events. So I'm going to read to you. This is like the perfect opening as well, in terms of acknowledging the journeys that bring us all together in wherever place we find ourselves. This is Naty and My Chaotic Stench. It's a really beautiful little story, a short novel, queer Boricua story from the Montes. And it's a young adult novel, and I'm really excited to share with you today. I know that a few of you have it in your hands, which is super exciting. So thank you all for being part of this journey with me. I'm going to read the acknowledgements because it's super important. I got to thank the people who brought me into this world. Thank you to my mother, Edna Rios, and my father, Samuel Rivera, for their light, strength, resilience, and love. Thank you to Nancy, the person who inspired this book and was part of my adolescence, and to her son, Adolfo. Rest in power and peace. Thank you to Sander Morrow, Susie Santana, Erika Mena, and Seth Torje for believing in this book and supporting its materialization. This one was made by non-binary Boricua people, y'all. This is like really, I'm so proud. Erika printed it, and Andrea Perez Becin designed the cover and this like super beautiful black and gold design. So really proud of that. This book is dedicated to the people of Puerto Rico and its diaspora. May our stories live and thrive, standing the test of time. and we begin. Darkness, a purple haze. The oracle speaks. Once was red and twice was crimson blood. Tonight, prophetic visions echo from my pillows. In exchange for a bag of sleep leaves, I shall reveal to you the movement of the planets by reading the way blood rushes through my veins. From underneath a blindfold, I will share with you a kaleidoscopic vision of reality. Let's begin. A huge cigar hangs from her mouth. The room is thick with the scent of paprika, cilantro, and tomato sauce. Big buttocks sway under a large purple skirt that sweeps the floor. She's singing one of those cantinero songs from old jukeboxes in the Mexican bars. The hexes that rough-looking men sang to their lovers with drunken passion and despair. I sat at the table, planted my black sneakers firmly on the ground, and picked at the chipped black nail polish on my nails. Fire de cacerol con toy la madre, como dicen por ahí, pa los gustos los colores. Chapter 1, Ali. A tangled hairy mess lays on the bed, arms spread out and legs up on the wall, long dark hair spilling from the bed to the floor. The hanged man. What a world, the wicked witch shrieks out of the television as she melts. I stare at the white paint bubbles on my ceiling. The biggest one takes the shape of South America, dripping out of the dirty white ceiling. I fantasize about being a wild Amazon woman with hair reaching down to my thighs and wild orchids tangled in unruly curls that smell of waterfalls and mud, rain and mangoes and blossoming birds of paradise, worrying only about the rain. Smoke from the burning sage gathers into thick blankets above the bed, soundproofing my room so the thunder and the lightning only resonate in my head. I stay quiet and visualize the storm soaking everything up, washing off the colors and wrapping the world in a monochrome blanket. I lick my lips. Peppermint incense makes me hungry. Chapter 2, the stench. At the moment, I have an urgent matter to resolve. No, let me explain. So you see, in these past few weeks, I've started to notice something quite embarrassing. I have acquired an insistent body odor. It's a kind of syrupy, rancid smell. I shower every day, I swear. I have no idea why this is happening. The people I've asked claim that they can't smell a thing, but they might be lying, you know? The type of nice that will not get its hands dirty. In the department store, I slip between perfume booths without uttering a single sound, avoiding eye contact with the saleswomen and their overly done makeup. I cruise around the aisles, sliding through the thick clouds of Chanel and Yves Saint Laurent and all those tiny bottles I can't afford, desperately searching for a magic potion that could hide my persistent odor. But like a curse, all scents merge into a single smell, a knife that slowly pierced my nostrils, and I could no longer tell the difference. It was a smell that reminded me of the slow plastic decay of ladies with Botox and lots of jewelry. Frustration was scribbled like an invisible tattoo on my forehead. I could feel it. It itched. What a total waste of time. This chaotic stench was still following me. I need to talk to Naty. Esoteric coffee. I have to tell you about my friend Naty. Naty is a 42-year-old Puerto Rican with big red lips, green ojo brujos, café con leche skin, and hair dyed colorado profundo. She is always mandando pa buen sitio a su 16-year-old son. Me dan ganas de mandarte con esto a la cabeza. Tan fácil como chuparme un limber. She screams at him as she waves an enormous raspberry-scented candle in a heavy glass container. Gilberto just rolls his eyes. There's nothing like the bond between mother and son. Naty will soon be crowned a santera. She's the daughter of Oshun, the river goddess, the queen of honey and love. However, Naty sí que tenía mala suerte in the love department. But nowadays, ¿quién no, right? Naty survives on social security checks, tarot readings, magic potions, baños, and rituals for her recurring clientele, including angry and lovesick women, unfaithful cops of all genders, and desperate individuals looking to get their loved ones out of jail. She does her readings in her living room. Everything in this room is peach, white, and gold. She collects everything that is angel related. Paintings, figuras, wallpapers, coasters, muñecas, you name it. Esa manía kitsch que tiene la gente de aquí. Cachivaches and belecos. The room was furnished with 2 love-seat sofas with fancy cushions and a chair covered with a cloak of goat fur. Every piece of furniture was covered with porcelain dolls, blonde angels that listened attentively to everything uttered in the room, observing through big glass eyes that lurked behind perfect curls. Naty served my coffee and sat down at her reading table. She took out a cherry cigar. She lit it as she puffed out the smoke with her big red lips. She opened a bottle of rose water, poured a little bit on her hand, and rubbed her palms. She sprinkled some on her tarot deck as she mumbled prayers. The smoke she exhumed circled around her as she dealt her tarot deck. She placed the cherry of the cigar inside her mouth, careful that she didn't burn her tongue, and puffed smoke onto her deck. Smoke offered to the santos and the muertos. Naty whispered these smoky prayers as she motioned with her hands, smoothing down the flyaways in her aura and making surrounding smoke ripple with her eager spirits. A Hawaiian tune starts playing. Steel drums and surf sounds interrupt the ritual. She answers her phone. ¿Aló? Sí, ya lo tengo preparado. Vamos a brujearle a ese hijo de la gran yegua. You could feel the heat blowing out of her mouth like a dragon as she spoke on her cell phone. She was talking with a customer for whom she had finished a trabajo. Vamos a hex that son of a bitch. She had an accent, but her English was okay. Te quiero, mamita. Dios te cuide. She hangs up. Naty had that maternal and authoritative vibe exuded by matriarchal women, a promise of embrace and protection like a river goddess mother. She was a woman who had lived an intense life, divorced twice, and had many failed love affairs. She had 2 sons, each from a different father. The eldest one married young due to an early pregnancy, turning Naty into a young abuela with a cute 3-year-old nieto. Esa nena es el diablo, mi adoración, she said as she showed me the most recent picture of her wild yet lovable grandson with his messy red curls and freckled cheeks. Gilberto was her youngest son, un caco, reggaeton scenester. He was really into his car, like most chamaquitos from around here. It was a red 1991 Isuzu Trooper with a loaded stereo system and extra lights in creative places inside the car. He planned to add huge decals of Japanese robots to his guagua. Deja de ser tan vago y ve a comprar leche. Pero no, que no te quedes una hora y me traigas la leche cortada. Ven derechito para acá. As he left to buy milk at El Colmado down the street, Naty resumed her ritual and began the spread. 5 cards on the table. 2 above, 1 in the middle, and 2 below. More were added downward from the top, forming 3 columns, as the cards revealed visions to the redhead reader. Ay, Eliyahu, ábreme los caminos. I'm gonna pause here 1 little second. Feel free to stretch around, take in all the really cool stories, but feel where you are. If you want to stand up and pause, don't feel pressured with the story. Just live your vibe, do what you need. Yeah, this is really awesome. I'm really excited to be reading this piece for you all. And this is really short, so I think that I'll probably read for half an hour more, and then we'll do like a short Q&A. So just so you know what you're getting into over here. Thank you. Okay, el mercado. Naty gave me another list of ingredients for another one of her herbal remedy baths. El despojo. I'm a bit tired of these and of spending money. I mean, I can find a few of her ingredients in the backyard and in her kitchen, but I have to go to el mercado because she doesn't let me use her supplies. Pues that's my business, mija. You're already getting it all gratis. She yells nonchalantly as she turns toward her stove and waves her wooden spoon. Not sure how much of a remedy they are anyway. The smell goes away for a few minutes and then comes back. Ugh. I drove over to el mercado with a list of ingredients to prepare the despojo. Ruda, rue, yerbabuena, spearmint, esencia de abrecaminos, open roads essence, canela, cinnamon, manzanilla, chamomile, pétalos de rosa, my mom's favorite, rose petals, clavos, cloves, and agua florida, Florida water. Doña Silva and the Cemetery of Cigarettes. I got a really nice playlist for this story, y'all. I'm gonna share it after the reading. It's 3 p.m. on one of the many hot and slow afternoons that are only brightened by the occasional breeze. Doña Silva is Naty's maestra, her teacher of la obra. We drove in spirals around 2 montes to get here. Naty parked her car under a large palm tree. We entered through a red concrete fence, framed by 2 columns with 2 sculptures of white impish boys sitting on koi fish. We passed by the terrace and approached a shed with a small porch. An old man was sitting impatiently. A holographic image of the Holy Heart hung from the door of the shed. This was the room of the consultas. The door was closed. You go in after el señor. Are you sure? Yes, you go first. I rested against the wall and looked to the floor. I noticed the cement floor outside the shed was covered with cigarette butts and small seashells. Naty soon contributed to the cigarette cemetery as she flicked hers off with her acrylic nails. Its ember faded out against the seashells, and its last breath of smoke faded into nothingness. There was a small fountain next to the gate in a small patch of soil and greenery. I reached out to pick up a shell. Don't touch that. The fountain was small, with natural rocks glued on cement, surrounding a 1-foot-tall Virgin Mary statue with a rosary in hand and the trademark blue shroud, as well as a snake between her feet. I fantasized for a sec about Mary being alive in the contemporary world. She could be a bee girl, blue hoodie, bling rosary, making hallelujahs fierce and warm like a gospel singer, an earth-colored girl with no papers, or she could be a punk with a halo caught in her nose, snakes tattooed around her ankles, blue hair shrouding her face. She would spit at people who dared to judge her sexual identity. The Sacred Heart door opened and a teenage girl walked out, followed by a woman in her 40s. After them, an older woman appeared in a floral dress, emitting a squeal through her thin lips. Cógelo con calma, mija. No te dejes coger de pendeja. Los hombres son como chavos prietos. Ya no valen ni pa' dulce. Take it easy. Don't let yourself be fooled. Men are like pennies, not even worth enough for candy. The old woman looked intently at me like a cop. Then a thin-lipped smile crept through her mouth. It turned into a grin with a missing teeth, a few yellow ones, and a gold-plated fang. I smiled back, but I couldn't hide my awe at that glimmer in her mouth. She quickly turned to face the old man that was waiting for her. Bueno, mijo, vamos a lo mismo. When will you learn? She had a heavy Cuban accent. Bueno, señora, así están las cosas, por eso vengo para acá, he replied, half embarrassed. He walked into the room and closed the door. Another cigarette leaped off the edge of Naty's acrylic claws. It joined the other brown corpses in their cement graveyard with seashell tombstones. We waited 20 minutes. My phone had low battery. The old man emerges from the room carrying a bottle filled with a dark liquid, branches, and leaves. He turned to face Doña Silva. His hand rose to draw the sign of the cross on his forehead and his chest. And thank you. Doña Silva floated toward me, grabbed my wrist. She had black cat claws. Her nails natural, long, black, and sharp. She gently turned my wrist on its vulnerable side, smelled it. Follow me. This room, it was an altar. You were immediately caught in the aura of a large ceramic Saint Lazarus surrounded by flowers, candles, horseshoes, a cauldron, a sword, smaller statues of other saints. There was only space left for a bed and a chair. A large glass vase with water and herbs rested on the floor next to the bed. The door closed behind us. The tunnel of trees, Xiomara in blue. This is a car drive, a forest ride, a road to the other side. It doesn't even need to be a secret. No one ever pays much attention. Somehow, they don't realize it. I took it. I took the road, the tunnel of trees, a desolate daytime. After many rough breaths, my fatigued car stopped. I decided to walk. A girl dressed in a light blue quinceañera dress and two of her friends appeared from the trees. They were bluebells, ringing with voices like sparkling glass. Hola, soy Xiomara. Es mi quinceañero. And I wanted to see the road no one walks on, she chirped. They danced and ran away toward the mouth of the tunnel. Their images blurred like static from a videotape. Que te beso las manos y te miro guiando, y tu amor nos hizo una ofrenda. My body turns on the warm trap that is my bed. My eyes hungry for light but hurting, they reach for the window. Gray kingsbirds are making a nest on the lime tree. They will now attack anyone who passes underneath it. Kingsbirds are pitirres, by the way, in Puerto Rico. They're really tiny little gray birds that attack hawks. They're pretty intense little creatures. It's pretty awesome. Comprendo que era yo, que era yo, que era yo la sombra. Sueño, baila Lupe. The song ends, gives away to roosters clawing at the morning. My legs slide off the bed, feet slide into the kitchen. A kettle with water set on the stove. Stove lit, sage burning. I bounce back to the bed with that skull mug that Naty had given me as a gift. I receive a text message from Abe. His band plays tonight and he offered to ride for the show. Abe is the vocalist and guitarist in a punk band called Sagas. He is Indio with piel canela and long, straight black hair, a slick crooner. Abe was not born male, but he is. We've been friends for 3 years. He's obnoxious but charming enough to get away with it. Flash forward to the show. Plaid skirts and fishnets, vintage glasses and dresses, Doc Martens and runny mascara, clouds of dust rising from under worn out buckled boots, leather and cigarettes, smoke, dust. After the fourth song, My chest began pounding hard and I could barely breathe. I slithered away to catch some fresh air. Found some steps on the building next to the venue. The night breeze cooled my face. I moved my foot and knocked something over. A CD player. How old is this? I quickly took the headphones and hit play. A band I've never heard before. No vocals, all electronic music. It made me think of a fluorescent bay. Dark, smooth, and electric. Someone taps my shoulder. I took off the headphones. That's mine. A grin bloomed on thick purple lips, releasing cigarette smoke. Chapter 7, Black Rabbit. Will you steal it? I haven't seen one of these in years. The grin faded into a smile, leaving room for me to notice their bright black eyes. I'm Lo. Ali, mucho gusto. Abe bursts out the door, his big smile eroded into a scowl. Hey, were you outside all this time? I was hoping you'd stay for the set. Hello, greeted Lo with their big smile. ¿Qué hay? Puffed Abe. I caught your set. It sounded great. I reluctantly tried to comfort Abe. Yeah, cool. Abe moved past us to join a crowd outside. Do you two know each other? I asked. We went to the same high school, used to be close. Things got messy though. Lo laughed and flicked their cigarette onto the street. It faded like a settling firefly. What happened? You ask too many questions. That gets people in trouble. Lo smirked. I looked at my broken cell phone to check on the time. See you around. Lo gave a slight bow before disappearing into the crowd of bronze punks cackling out in the pastizal. El curandero, the witch doctor. Don Alvin was an old curandero, a healer that lived in las parcelas, the parcels, in the mountains. He has white hair and a thick white mustache. He wore old polo shirts, long pants, a baseball cap, and the traditional beaded necklaces of the orishas. His clothes were usually old and a bit dirty. He was a very busy man. One afternoon, as I was leaving Naty's house, this old man arrived to see her. He met my gaze straight on, locked on me as I got into my car. Once I started my engine, I found him standing in front of my car, motioning me to get out. Tú te me bajas ahora. I turned off the car. I opened my door. Have you been in a car accident lately? He asked with a fierce gaze. Actually, I've had 2 this week. I replied with what I'm sure was a wide-eyed response. Ay, si tú te vas a la tercera. Oh, they will get you the 3rd time. We went inside Naty's house, but this time he was the one conducting the ritual. He pulled out a spray can with a label that depicted Archangel Michael defeating a demon. Lucky I brought this. I knew it was odd that something was telling me to bring this with me today. He asked me to lay down on the floor, face down, and he sprayed my back with this magic spray. And then he held my arms and stepped on my back. Have you been having back pain? He asked, sounding like a cryptic commercial. Yeah, she's been looking like a hunchback girl lately, Naty replied as she fanned herself with a celebrity gossip magazine. She was sipping cheap beer from a straw, her red big lips stamped on the plastic. Her red lipstick stamped on the plastic. I had no time to get angry. I was too preoccupied wailing at every electric shock that was sent up my spine with every step that Don Alvin took on my back. There, como nueva, good as new, he yelled. Mira pa' allá, la nena can stand straight now, Naty chimed in. Let's get ready pa' abrir la mesa. That is, Naty, if you don't mind, said Don Alvin. Not at all. You can go ahead, Naty said as she turned around and headed back to the kitchen. Don Alvin took a cigar out from his chest pocket and lit it. He puffed for a few minutes. Give me your left hand. And I followed orders. He grabbed my hand with his cold, old, dark hands. His nails were at least an inch long. Put the cigar backwards into his mouth. He puffed a cloud of smoke that swallowed my hand. As the cloud vanished, he kept staring into my left palm. His eyes kept an intense purpose. His lips pursed. Te han estado trabajando. You have a trabajo, a spell, that has been planted on your back to see you in a hospital. It's like a shadow of a palm tree planted on your back. Someone experienced is involved. Someone who is targeting Naty. An attack on your madrina has reflected on you. ¿Qué? That filthy víbora! She's playing with me, Naty shrieked. Mira que messing with my Alicia. She's messing with fuego del malo, no sabe lo que le viene. Don Alvin tried to calm down Naty. Don't worry. Drop by my house tomorrow. I have snake oil, a few other things. Naty, bring a bead necklace for her so we can break this. The next day, Naty took me to Don Alvin's house. After some narrow roads in the mountain, we parked next to an aleli tree. A stone path led to the driveway, down a hill, where his house emerged from the trees. He had 2 sheds, 2 of them this time, similar to Doña Silva's, except they didn't have a waiting area. One was locked with chains, and the paint was coming off. The other was painted light blue and had a wooden cross hanging from the door. I wore an old white shirt, old jeans, and white underwear. No bra, like Naty asked me to. Don Alvin had many useful trees and herbs growing around his house. Mejorana, marjoram, ruda, rue, albahaca, basil, artemisia, wormwood, cundiamor, bitter melon, and many others, all of which he would use for baths and rituals. He led us through a path to the right of his house that continued down the hill and led to an unfinished bathroom on the side of the foundation of his house. As he walked, he took some leaves off of one of the trees, and we entered a room that was raw concrete, the bare bones of a room. It was empty, but had a makeshift shower. It's likely that Don Alvin was building out this part of his house by himself, which actually happens a lot in Puerto Rico. He lit candles and asked me to take everything off, get in the shower. He picked up what looked like a bucket of herbal water, a ritual bath that he had prepared prior to our arrival. He lit a cigarette and kept it between his pursed lips. He began chanting a prayer as he dumped a first round of cold aromatic water on me, catching me by surprise with a painful chill. Ay, this is so cold. Shh, Naty snapped. Don Alvin now took my shirt and ripped it, a piece of it. He took the pail and dumped more of the herbal water on me. He chanted louder and louder. I gasped for air. He took out a strange bottle with yellowish brown liquid. This is snake oil. He poured it on his hand and asked me to turn around. Naty gave him the bead necklace he had requested. He smeared the oil with an open palm over my naked back and held the necklace on the other hand. He clenched his fist. His palm and fist both pressed in strong pulses on my shoulder blades and spinal cord. It felt like I was caught in a current. Once more, he dumped the last of the herbal water on my back. Don Alvin flicked his cigarette into the jungle that crept down the hill. My hair, now wet, clung to my body. Naty handed me a towel and fresh clothes. I remember walking from El Rancho back to my house at night, past the tangerine tree. I was carrying my music equipment. I was carrying too much, so I decided to turn around. I looked toward the curve, and there, next to the tangerine tree, stood a glowing figure of a girl with curly black hair, wearing a white dress. Am I imagining things? I felt dizzy, so I turned back around and carried the equipment back home, up the hill. I looked back once I reached the gate. The figure had disappeared. Vientos. I received a phone call from Naty. I drove that evening to her house and parked my car near the white gate that lined her home. Walked into the terrace and stepped through the door to her kitchen. About 10 people sat in her kitchen and living room. Naty had an open coconut on one hand, Florida water on the other, and kerosene under her arm, and a cigar in her mouth, as usual. She walked onto the terrace, poured a little bit of kerosene into the coconut, and placed it on the floor. Then she lit her cigar and turned it again, the cherry, toward the inside of her mouth, so she could blow smoke onto every person as they formed a circle around her. She lit this coconut on fire. Each of us walked clockwise around the coconut as part of the cleansing ritual, our arms motioning from head to toe as if we were undressing from layers of skin. This fire grew. It turned into a whirl of embers that reached my height. It kept spiraling for about 10 minutes. Then, quickly, the coconut swallowed it. That month, I had recurring dreams of heavy winds. Nothing. Llego a la casa y me pongo a fumar con mis dedos de hielo. Con tanto frío que tengo, se me ha espantado hasta el miedo. Héroes del Estéreo by Huáscar Robles. Neither Naty, nor Doña Silva, nor Don Alvin could figure out what's happening. The stench still follows me like a muerto hiding in the corners. Naty taught me to leave small little white plates with peppermint bonbons on a corner of the room. Oh, something's going on here. There we go. Great. Naty taught me to leave small white plates with peppermint bonbons on a corner of the room. The rats won't touch them, trust me. Those are for Eliyahu, who lives in the corners and the crossroads, and an upside-down jar of water on top of the refrigerator to keep the muertos and the past lovers away. I lit Palo Santo and placed it next to the jar. These two things must always be kept at a high point of the house. So many rules. I'm going to read two more. Gil. 16-year-old Gilberto had been killed. This was in the news that day. He was with his cousin who was being chased by the police. They were on their way home from school, and they both got caught in a crossfire. Gilberto's cousin was injured, and Gilberto died, caught in the crossfire. Naty felt deep guilt. She had agreed to house his cousin for a week, knowing he was evading the police. Gilberto, her youngest son, she couldn't handle this loss. El cementerio. In that neighborhood, El Cuco, it was called that way because they said that at night, El Cuco came out from under the mango trees. It was a hot day out, a clear cerulean sky. Naty needed to visit the cemetery today. She needed earth from 7 graves to collect 7 warriors for her caldero, her cauldron. We took ground cascarilla, ground eggshell, and made crosses on our palms, the bottom of our feet, and our heads. Yecuayeyo ya, baronesa del cementerio, A tu enorme casa no queremos llegar. Greetings to Oya, Baroness of the Cemetery. We don't want to stay trapped in your large house. We walked guided by her palpitations. I walked right behind her with a metal spoon in hand, and she had a bag filled with 7 small glass jars. She had a bag filled with 7 small jars. Once she picked a grave, she kneeled. She prayed. Nothing. She stood up and kept walking. Next one. She kneeled. She prayed. Silence. A smile. I handed her the spoon. She whispered a prayer as she took some of the earth next to the tombstone. We did this till sunset. That night, Naty had an episode. Her screams flooded the living room at 11 p.m. They spilled on the floor in pools of shadows. She held on to her voice recorder and insisted she heard conversations. The audio files were just white noise. Bruja. That means witch in Spanish. When I was younger, my grandma will talk about las brujas who would perch on the trees and steal children. Brujas climb the trees. They look like hens with feathers gorged on their heads like pom-poms. They wipe their beaks between feathers. They pick at the electric cables. Their heels are chaos, echoes. In the morning, you can find evidence they were there. A large fluorescent yellow mushroom rose below the tree where they were perched. Naty, are you a river? Born both in one place and in all the places at the same time. You exist in a single fleeting moment and all at once. You flow over things, paving paths. You erode, you enrich, you push. Your laughter like rocks and bells, harsh. It's hurricane season. The mountains spill over, noisy and excited. The sky is raging. Avocado trees are birthing like crazy. Some of their branches touch the floor. They roll over the hills to rot. This will be a heavy season of storms. Naty, the streams that bleed out of the mountains are really just you, always on a rush. Will you return to the Madre Océano or become a lake on your own? Last piece. Ofrenda. Another dream. This time, I was nurturing 3 newborn panthers, kept them safe on a wooden cage built up on a canopy of mango trees, safe from the predators who wanted to devour them before they fulfilled their power. It's been 3 years since I've seen Naty. Her madrina told me she moved to Utuado to live by the rivers, that she was called by her mother Oshun to heal along the riverbed in the heart of the island. I remember when Naty and I went to the beach with an ofrenda one morning, a gift for Yemaya, mother of the sea. The sun felt good on my skin, and the breeze cooled the hot earth. All the shades of blue were crisp and clear that day. We brought white wildflowers with us, and facing the ocean, we poured honey over the blossoms and released them into the tides. Thank you, Yemaya. Keep the safety of our family, those of blood and those of spirit. I've taken on Naty's craft like she expected I would. Tú vas a tomar mi camino, nena. Ya tú verás, fuiste hecha para eso. Mejor que yo, eres más fuerte. I accepted this path the day after the rainstorm, after finding Naty's note. The storm ceased and the sky was crisp and cerulean. I was called to the beach that morning. I walked into the tide and lowered my body onto the water, the skirts of Yemaya, I closed my eyes, felt warm and held. That morning, the stench disappeared. I understood. The end. Thank you. Yay. Thank you, everyone.
Woo! Loved it. Gracias, amiga.
Gracias, Tamara.
Súper
Huepa.
conectada, gracias.
Oh, so great. So
I
good.
loved it. Thank you, amiga.
Gracias.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. But I got a few copies of that little book still left. If you log into my website or small press distribution, there's just like 20 left. So if you want one of those handmade, really beautiful books, please let me know. And yeah, we'll just open it up like a few minutes for any questions that if folks want to have some questions before we start our weekends in close proximity to our loved ones or very far away from them.
¿De dónde salió la idea de hacer ese libro?
Well, that's a very good question, Sasha. Very direct, straight to the point. So this book actually had taken me, even though it's really short, it took me 10 years to write because there's a lot of it that has to do with my own upbringing. I say it's fiction, but just because I want to escape the responsibility. But there's a lot of it that actually was very much part of my life. And I was struggling to be able to tell some of those stories. A piece of me didn't want to let it go because I really feel like stories from the rural Puerto Rico are really important for them to be told. Like those stories are not uplifted. They're barely uplifted. Even like the people who wrote about rural Puerto Rico years ago were all cis men. And like, you know, we don't often hear what life is like in the rural parts of the world. I mean, not of the island. So I was haunted by the book. I just had to write it. I had to get it out. And thankfully it worked out with the support of some friends.
I'm so glad that you made it happen. Thank you for writing it and for sharing it with us today.
Thank you. So for parties to hear this, definitely write your book, get it published. Doesn't matter if it takes you 10 years.
Hi, Shey. Thank you so much for the read and for sharing. And it's definitely been the highlight of my day.
Me too.
But I love the vacillation between English and Spanish, and it was such a treat to hear that Puerto Rican accent. But also, what is your experience with the herbs that you mentioned? I was telling Sarah, I remember my grandmother always making like putting leaves in the alcohol or putting some kind of mezcla on her head for her headache and just using it as medicine. And what's your experience with those herbs, you know, even for religious or for medicinal purposes? Because I find that I was particularly intrigued by that part of the story.
Yeah, thank you, Dre. That's an awesome question. I think this is, you know, even considering everything that's happening in the world right now with COVID, like how that, well, at least to me, strengthens how our family members and our abuelas have had such a strong traditional backgrounds in homemade medicine and herbology that like traditional medicine maybe doesn't acknowledge. But I grew up with that. Mi abuela would always make like mejunjes of like honey and like mejorana and like whatever, you know, so I couldn't keep track of all the ways that she would do it. But then she would give us like, you know, the little syrupy thing she would mix with honey whenever we were sick. And then she would like sobarnos and everything would be better. Maybe throw some Vicks in there to make it more contemporary. But yeah, those are the kind of ways I do use a lot of herbs still in my own spiritual practice. Like for a long time, so I grew up in between I think it's like an experience that many Puerto Ricans have. We grew up in the mixture of our spiritual practices that make up our culture. So half of my family was super Yoruba, other half of my family was conservative Christian Catholic. And even though they had some witchy stuff happening, they would never admit they were witchy. So for a while I was really confused and upset because of being thrown so many ideas at the same time. So for a while, I just decided to not engage in that at all. And then as an adult, then I started to then pick pieces back up to rebuild my spiritual practices on my term, especially as a queer person. Because like, it's not, there are a lot of things that I think that we all need to reconfigure. Pero total, I still feel like it's very relevant today. I still think that there's a lot of wisdom and knowledge in the herbs that we are given by nature, or that nature provides for us. And there's a lot of knowledge that elders have that I think it's our responsibility as new generations to, hear that out, to take that as part of our culture and our responsibility and move it forward. So esencia, like I think some simple things like I still do despojos every New Year's. New Year's is my favorite holiday, but not because I party, it's because it's a space of grounding and reflection and letting go of things that don't work for me anymore, and then setting intentions. So muchas prácticas de las abuelas y de las mamás y todo eso, what you would do is like your home is the home base of power. So you clean your home, and there are so many different ways, like everyone here in this circle knows, of cleaning your home to set intentions. And then you do the baño, which I reference in the book a lot, because the despojos are one kinds of baños. Other baños are more like if you want more money in your life, if you want more love or more sex in your life. But yeah, I still do that. And for like dear people of mine, I send them little potions on New Year's. And then on a day-to-day, just like lighting candles and setting intentions and burning incense is really important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay. One more question. Oh, cool. From Laura. Was there a word or sentence in the book you fell especially in love with? Or maybe that was really hard to write? Wow, okay. Kind of biased, but like I really, really just love the Spanglish parts of the book. I think like many Spanish speakers that also speak English were often thinking like, how do we do a thing that exists in both cultures at the same time? And I think I was working really hard to make sure that I could still put those pieces in there, that people who didn't know Spanish could kind of get a sense of it, but that it was still like a really nice gem for the people who know Spanish and are part of the culture. So some of those were really great, especially because I can vividly see them being said by people. Those are things that on a day-to-day, people in Puerto Rico say. Like, no sea vago y ven pa' acá, don't be lazy and come here quick. Like those Puerto Rican moms are rough, man. But like, yeah, I think Yara. Yara's a Puerto Rican mom. So much respect for you, Yara.
I totally agree. Yes.
I saw you laughing. I saw you. It's okay. So those are the best. I think those are the most joyful pieces for me to write because they felt kind of sneaky and playful. The whole book was hard to write. And a big part of that book, while I was reading it, I was really trying to not have my mom be present in the book. But the book is really a lot about my mom. So like at some point I had to make peace with that and like, do a lot of internal searching and kind of just close it off nice and neatly, but not really, pay homage to her, but not really put her in the middle because I love my mom and she deserves privacy and respect. But yeah, that was hard. Thank you for that question. It was so nice. Okay, one more, and then we can head out to our individual ways to celebrate Friday. Oh, I'm just drinking a gin and tonic that my amazing partner Seth Torje made for me to celebrate that I'm doing a reading with you all. Yay, hooray for Seth. Woo. Wow, well, thank you so much, everyone. This has been really meaningful and amazing. It's really crazy how you can feel so refreshed and re-energized while still being in your secluded little studio where you have been isolated for like 2 weeks already. Much love to you all. Stay safe during this time. Don't go out, wash your hands. I have a lot of love and respect for you all. Thank you for coming with me on this journey, and have an amazing weekend.
We love you, Shey.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Shey.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Amiga, thank you. Cuídate.
Thank you. Se cuidan. Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye.
Perfect.